My name is Neo Morake. I am a longtime Southwest resident. Moved here in the 1990s, and I can happily say that I am a proud product of the DCPS schools. Not only did I graduate from Amidon before it became Amidon-Bowen, but I was also a student of Jefferson Junior High School. I'm really excited to be here. Having been a longtime resident of this community, Amidon and Jefferson have really meant a lot to me. And I'm so glad that I have been invited here by the Amidon-Bowen parents to be involved in making sure that we're really representing our community and all of our interests. So as some of you may know, starting in 2027, Amidon-Bowen will undergo a 2-year renovation. And so during those 2 years, DCPS plans for our students to attend a school in the temporary sitting space at Meyer Elementary in Columbia Heights. Now, on a good day, this could mean that our students would have to endure a daily commute of about 2 hours. And so sending our students to Meyer Elementary will not only place our children at risk in traffic and unfamiliar streets, it will also add to the city's already challenging traffic problems, but also it will make it harder for families to be involved with the school and to respond to health or other emergencies. Now, we, the Southwest community, and that's everyone from our parents and caregivers to business owners, church members, and our aging in place residents, we are truly concerned about how this change will disrupt our community. And so, in order for our community to thrive, our schools must thrive. We are finding that this plan, rather than strengthening our community, it will weaken it by driving our families towards other schools and undermining the hard work and progress of recent years in building our tight-knit community. And so tonight, I'm honored to be here, and I'm so glad that you can all join us. We're gathered here to hear not only the concerns of the community, but also to ask our elected officials for a more collaborative approach to working with us in order to better serve our students, our families, and the greater Southwest community. Now, to get us started, I want to pass the mic to Willem, who is an Amidon-Bowen parent, and to Pastor Brian. If you can please make your way up.
Sorry, we have a little audio video. I hope you're enjoying the images and the videos. The kids are awesome. My name is Willem Dika. I'm the first second grade DC sports soccer coach at Amidon, and my daughter used to go to the school. If you look behind you, I've set up a photo project that we displayed in the Amidon lobby in 2019. And it was done by the 5th graders. They're photos of a mid-20th century African-American photographer who was largely forgotten. And I found the photos in the basement of this church and thought it would be great to have the 5th graders, along with Miss Perry, recreate them and exhibit. And the kids took the pictures. They were awesome. I want to thank Pastor Brian. Pastor Brian and this church has not only supported Amidon financially, but also so much support and your support with the photo project in 2019. Your continued support, really appreciate it. And I wanted to show them today because I want to just accentuate that Amidon-Bowen is the anchor, one of the anchors of Southwest. And we cannot have this school move 3.5 miles away for 2 years. Right? I will let others explain exactly why that is. I just also want to say, also on behalf of Pastor Brian, please do not forget our immigrant families. There's so much fear right now. I know there's so much going on. But they have rights, including the right not to be taken from school without any warrant. There are a couple of flyers, and know your rights, because I think our children will ask of us what Dr. Martin Luther King said to in his time, and that is, what did you do? What did we do? Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
Good evening, Amidon.
Good evening.
Give it up for Amidon. Go Tigers. My name is Brian Hamilton, and I'm a pastor here at Westminster, and it has been a great privilege for me to have served in this church for 29 years now. I know you couldn't know it by looking at me, but I really am that old. And it's been a great privilege to be here in this community. Southwest, as you all know, is an extremely wonderful, powerful community. It is a great place to live and to grow up and to be in community. And Westminster, for many, many years, this church is 172 years old this year. Originally, it was located up by the HUD building, but it has been on this site since 1965. And since that time, this church has always had a very strong, tight relationship with Amidon-Bowen. We have so many members who belong to the school, who belong here, so many members, concerned citizens who've been over at Amidon tutoring, doing some cleanup work, always involved in some of the programming going on at Amidon. It is, as has been said, a real pivotal institution in this community. And I am grateful to all of you for exercising your civic responsibility and exercising your rights to speak about what needs to happen with this school and this community. And I'm with you 100%. This school needs to stay put, even through the construction. And I'm very sure that you all can help the Board of Education understand how to do that. So give it up for yourselves. I'm so grateful for all of you for supporting public education, which brings so many diverse sections of our community together. That's the other side of our task, is to be community in a truly diverse and inclusive way. So thank you all for what you're doing here tonight. God bless you all.
The last time I was on this stage was actually when I was graduating from Amidon, so this is bringing back a lot of memories, but I won't even tell you when I graduated. So, to continue with our gratitude, first and foremost, as we start our program, I do want to make sure that I take the time to thank ANC Commissioner Andrea Colley. She has gone above and beyond for Amidon-Bowen. Commissioner, we are grateful for your service and continued advocacy for Amidon-Bowen. In addition, I want to make sure that we thank our elected officials for attending tonight. Ward 6 Council Member and DCPS parent, Charles Allen. DCPS Deputy Chancellor, Patrick Ashley. Ward 6 DC State Board of Education, Brandon Best. And staff members from Councilmember Kenyon Duffy's office. And last but not least, for the additional support and the pizza and snacks. We want to thank the Southwest Bid, Andy's Pizza, and the Edgewood Brooklyn Family Support Collaborative. Please. They're all going to share different perspectives of how the swing space will affect them. We're also going to hear from our elected officials, and then of course we want to make sure that we have some time to do questions and Q&A at the end. Now because we have so much happening, I do want to make sure that you hold your questions and comments until the end, and we will make sure that we do spend that time doing so. And so first up, I would love to have Commissioner Andrea Colley to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I'm the ANC Commissioner whose district Amidon-Bowen Elementary School is in. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I just want to clarify why we're here. We are here because we want our voices to be heard about Amidon-Bowen Elementary School. We want Southwest's voice to be heard. This is our opportunity to do that. We don't want our kids sent up to Columbia Heights for 2 years to be educated. That is going to harm families, it's going to harm children, it's going to harm the Children's Support Network, and it's going to harm the entire Southwest community. What we want is we want trailers on Amidon Field for Amidon-Bowen Elementary students. We have been advocating about this issue for 18 months. So every time that someone tells you that we're getting to this game late, that is not helpful. We have been talking about this for a long time. Just yesterday, the ANC received a letter from Chancellor Farabee that again said no. This is the no we've been hearing at every turn for the last 18 months. I think that is unacceptable. We need to get to yes. We need to get to a yes that puts trailers on Amidon Field for Amidon-Bowen Elementary students. So when you speak tonight, I ask that you speak loudly and you speak clearly. If we're lucky, you will be heard tonight. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Shante Smith, a parent of students at Amidon-Bowen, Jefferson Middle School, and Eastern High School. She will be followed by Sarah Buckley.
Good evening, everyone. I'm married to 2 students at Amidon. One is a 3rd grader. I'm currently at Amidon. I also have a 4-year-old who is autistic, and she's in a special class for children like her. She does travel by the school bus, and which we are currently having problems with that, so I do have a concern with the kids traveling with the school buses all the way from Southwest uptown. I think that is very inconsiderate to the parents who, are used to being able to get to their children in a timely fashion. I have safety reasons why I don't want my children that far. It's just, like I said, inconsiderate for all of these children. I've been a part of Amidon for 22 years. I have a 22-year-old who started at Amidon, who is now an adult. I have a 14-year-old who's now at Eastern. He went from Amidon to Jeff. And this is just crazy to me as a parent that our children have to travel that far. And as a parent of an autistic child who doesn't speak like we do to each other as adults, as other children, to travel that far and not knowing, what could possibly happen in that district with our children. It's unfortunate, but this is unacceptable. And as you said, these kids should be able to have trailers stuck in the field as they did for Apple Tree at Jefferson, until they got a permanent space. Why can't our children have it?
Followed by Camille Campbell.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sarah Buckley. I'm a parent of 2 at Amidon. I'm a proud Southwest resident for more than 10 years now. I can't even keep track. Councilmember Allen, Deputy Chancellor Ashley, Board Member Best, the Southwest community wants Amidon to stay in Southwest. And you have the power to make that happen. I'm here to ask you to use that power our kids in Southwest, save this incredible school, which is threatened to be destroyed by the current plan to swing to Meyer. It sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. We did a survey of Amidon families, and 68% reported that they would try to find another school under the current plan. Only 7% were committed to staying. And we lose almost 70% if the commute to a swing space is more than 15 minutes. That kind of exodus will destroy the school. It not only will deprive us of the families that have made the community that we know and love today, but it's not the kind of exodus that we can easily bounce back from. It's not a loss that can be easily recovered because Amidon is unique among DCPS and even among Ward 6 schools. We have very high neighborhood demand, comparable to Brent and Maury, but we have very low waitlist demand, one of the lowest in Ward 6. There's also key differences between us and similarly situated schools. Whereas Brent has 6% of its population at risk, Amidon has 62%. Whereas Brent has 11% special education, Amidon has 25%. And whereas Brent has 11% Black population, Amidon has 74%. Our amazing, unique school in this amazing, unique corner of DC deserves a swing space solution that fits our community. On a more personal note, I wanted to highlight two aspects of our family, two things that make the Meyer plan particularly hard. First of all is health needs. We're a food allergy family. I've had to respond to Amidon on several occasions when my kiddo has had an accidental exposure or was having symptoms that could be a reaction. And getting across town, trying to triangulate between my office and my home and the school is going to be really difficult and honestly makes me think that his health could be at risk. Second, like many families in the community, I'm sure, I'm a federal worker. We're actually a two federal worker family. And we know in this climate that we're facing a lot more restrictions on our ability to have the flexibility to respond to our kids' needs, get home to take care of them, get home to bring them home, attend their activities, and making us, again, triangulate across the city, across some of the worst traffic in DC, is going to hurt our ability to be there for our kids and be there for our school. So to conclude, I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to say, like Councilmember Allen, we've been having conversations about this for over a year, and I so much appreciate your engagement. We are on the cusp. Like, we are right there for a solution, and we need that final push. We need money in the budget. We need the okay from DC agencies, and we need to get moving on this plan now. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who came. We can have a food. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Camille Campbell, followed by Sharon and Pam.
Good evening, families, Amidon-Bowen faculty and staff, neighbors, and elected officials. My name is Camille Campbell, and I have a daughter that's in third grade at Amidon-Bowen. My daughter has an IEP at Amidon-Bowen. This is our second year here, and we have grown to love the Southwest Amidon-Bowen Elementary School community. We currently reside in Ward 8 and utilize a mixture of transportation options to get my daughter to school every day. Due to my daughter having an IEP, Amidon-Bowen was the only school close to home that accommodates her needs. Our commute time increases by an hour to beat rush hour traffic when using public transportation. Traffic is backed up as early as 7 a.m., especially with federal employees going back to work. Even though the train would seem like the best option, we can't depend on Metro to be effective because of issues outside of our control, like single tracking, stations closed for maintenance, and shuttle buses. Meyer Elementary is 40 minutes away by public transportation and a 30-minute drive through morning rush hour traffic. 23% of Amidon-Bowen families are coming from Ward 7s and 8. Adding another 3.5 miles to our I'm concerned that using Meyer Elementary as a swing space will damage our school community, leaving many families like mine to search for other school options closer to home that may not have the accommodations that we require. I'm demanding that you find a swing space location in the Southwest area that is suitable for students and staff. Please explore better options before a final decision is made. I think many families and school community members will be happy to accept the delay to the modernization if it means a much closer student space. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you, Camille, for speaking your truth. And now, if we can have Pam and Sharon to the stage.
Hi, my name is Pam McKinney, and I'm the current parent of a pre-K 4, and I will have a pre-K 3 year next year.
Hello, I'm Sharon Ishak-Herring, and I'm a current parent of a pre-K 4 student. I had a graduate from Amidon, Jefferson Christian High School. I'm sorry, and I'm the PTA co-parent.
And she's an Amidon alum. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to share a little bit of what, from the pre-K perspective, I reached out to a few parents, and I'm going to share some concerns that they noted. A big concern was putting just turned 3-year-olds on a long bus ride when many are still learning to be potty trained. This is a long ride for them in addition to a long commute getting to the school. One parent noted that their incoming pre-K student has severe motion sickness and has to take daily medication, which makes them drowsy and is not conducive for school. Parents are already worried about being very disconnected from school, students, teachers, and the early childhood experience during a vital time in their lives. They are 3 and 4. This is a long day for kids whose families need to use the bus or take metro rides from further distance. That is a significant time away for our youngest learners. Many expect to change schools and wouldn't come back because they don't want to create another disruption in their child's education and social community. Families will not be able to participate in school events when they are 40 plus minutes away from the school. In reality, they just won't keep their kids at Amidon. On a personal note, given my husband is a teacher in Congress Heights and I work in Manor Park, neither of us can envision sending our kids to Meyer. Our kids will lose their school community and have to rebuild. We don't want to make them change back to Amidon after 2 years building a new school community, especially as our daughter would return for her 5th grade year. Finally, I would like to make it clear that we only know about this meeting and even this thing that's happening because of parents. We've received no communication from DCPS, though I got a calendar. Thank you. If DCPS wants families and students to stay at DCPS, this is not how you build trust. I'm supposed to trust DCPS to put students first. And so far, I'm not confident they can.
So my family has been in Southwest. My grandmother moved here in 1971 to Waterside Towers. We have a deep history with Southwest family here. If the school was to move to Northwest, I'm sure that the community that we have currently will be disparate. It would not be the same situation with supports. Children that, older kids that need to pick up the younger kids from Jefferson or, within the neighboring area, it's going to look a lot different. So when sports events happen, parents will miss out. It's not going to be the same community feel that you have. Safety concerns, of course. But let's try to keep Southwest schools in Southwest the best way that we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Sharon. And next up, we'll have Nicole Yateman.
I have 2 boys at Amidon. My older one will have graduated by 2027, but my little guy just started. And I'm one of many parents that will leave Amidon and probably Southwest, honestly, if this plan goes through. We don't have a car. One of the reasons that we love living in Southwest is you don't need a car. You can walk or bike pretty much anywhere. And I think DC should encourage car-free lifestyles like that. I know we're going to hear, I'm sure tonight, that we don't need to drive to Meyer because our kids are going to be bused. But frankly, if I wanted to put my kid on a bus every morning for 40 minutes, I would live in Herndon. Like, I would live here. That's just not the choice in life that any of us make. This is a walkable neighborhood. It's a wonderful neighborhood to raise a kid in. I know we also talked about, I'm sure we'll hear more tonight, that we can't put trailers on one of the many fields in this neighborhood because sports teams need them. And to be honest, it does feel like the city is prioritizing those sports teams over our school, which is heartbreaking. So, I really appreciate that you and others are all here listening. So I just want to make sure you understand that it is emotional for us. It's our home. Like, we're not just trying to quibble over the logistics and the inconvenience. It's not like this NIMBY knee-jerk reaction to change. This is, I moved here 9 years ago when I was first pregnant with my oldest son. We got through COVID together as a community. I've watched like all the kids here, like I've watched them grown up since they were like 3 years old. When they see me in the street, we all see each other, we all say hi to each other. They call me Jane's mom. I love that. And I'm from an 800-person town. I'm from a very small town, and Southwest feels like a small town in a city, so it's very, very special. And if you take Amidon out of Southwest for 2 years, as people have said, we'll lose that. Like, you will take apart this incredible and diverse and vibrant community that we've all built. So I hope we can find a solution.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the parents and caregivers who spoke their truth and shared their stories about how this is going to affect their families, their students, our community. Once again, as someone who has grown up in this community, that is one thing that my mom loved about it, is the fact that I could walk to school, and for the first 8 years of my time in education, I was able to walk to Amidon and Jefferson. And so this is definitely one of the resounding stories here. So now I want to make sure that we open up the floor to Amidon-Bowen staff. I welcome Principal Jackson to the stage, followed up by Ms. Morgan Brown.
I want to start by just thanking everyone for coming out tonight. We know this is really important to the school community. I have the pleasure of serving as the new principal this year at Amidon. And so I want to share a couple things. I know I'm the newest one to this discussion for many folks. I've not been part of it in the past. And I know that these discussions can often be very emotional, carry a lot of stuff with them. So I want to share, I think, three main things. One, to my DCPS colleagues that are here tonight, want to thank them for being here. As you've heard from our community, we have a lot of passionate folks that have put a lot of time into their concerns and questions, and I want to thank you guys for being here to listen to them, and to the families for taking the time to put this together tonight so that we can share the concerns of the community. The second thing I want to name is all of my dialogue with my colleagues from central office. They have shown to me that they are very thoughtful. They are in a listening mode to see and listen to us tonight. So want to thank them for coming in that position of hearing from the community. Doesn't mean we always get answers we want, doesn't mean we get answers as quickly as we want, but do appreciate that they're here to hear our concerns. And then I know following me will be Ms. Brown, one of our teachers, but want to name that no matter where we are on any given day, we have an amazing faculty that is very dedicated to our students and will remain that way in all of the work we do. So, Ms. Brown?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Morgan Brown, and I'm a special education teacher at Amidon-Bowen. This year I get to work with our preschoolers and our kindergartners, and I serve as our LEA rep, our special education contact for the school. I've been at Amidon-Bowen for 8 years, and when I was first interviewing at Amidon, I asked the teachers and staff on the panel why they chose Amidon as their school home. Resoundingly, the answer was the school community. From the relationships that teachers build with families and students, to the community supports provided by our neighbors and Southwest organizations, The Amidon-Bowen community is a family that stretches beyond the school walls. Having now served on an interview panel myself for prospective teachers, I can tell you that that answer hasn't changed in the last 8 years, and by accounts of other teachers in the last 20 or more years as well. When an applicant asks the interview panel why we continue to choose Amidon-Bowen, the first response is always the community. As school staff, the reason why we stay is the Amidon-Bowen family, the students, the staff, the families, the neighbors, the local volunteers, and the Southwest connections. When I think about the possibility of our school moving across town for 2 years, I am concerned that key pieces of what makes Amidon-Bowen Amidon-Bowen will be lost for those 2 years and possibly longer. For one, our students benefit from so many connections and relationships we have with community organizations. Organizations like Good Projects, which primarily operates out of the Greenleaf Rec Center, who offers supports to families, after-school programming, and in-school mentoring. Supports which would be difficult to replicate if students are in a school all the way in Northwest DC. There's something to be said for the power of those 2-minute conversations between a parent and a teacher at pickup or dismissal. Unlike a phone call or a parent-teacher conference, that kind of conversation shows a student that she has a team in her corner looking out for her and saying that they're on the same page. Touch points that won't happen if students take a bus to and from Southwest every day. At dismissal, the front lobby of Amidon-Bowen fills with Jefferson students coming to pick up their siblings and say hello to their former teachers. This is both a logistical necessity for some of our families, but also such an important way that we show our students that our school is a safe place where they can always call home. Connections that won't be maintained if students are in different quadrants of the city than their middle school age brothers and sisters. I could go on, but for the sake of time, I'll stop there. I recognize that there are many logistics and details of modulars on the Amidon-Bowen, on the Amidon field that would present their own challenges. However, this community, which is the key reason why I and the majority of our staff choose our school, can't easily be packed up and moved across town, which is why I believe a swing space in Southwest is what is best for our school. Ultimately, as a teacher, I make decisions every day trying to do what is best for my students. I seek out their input and center their unique needs in my decision making, and that is what I, along with so many other people in this room tonight, are asking of our city and school district leaders. We are asking you to make a decision about this swing space based on what is best for our students and centering the unique needs of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say that one of the other resounding narratives that's being shared tonight is the fact that community plays such a central role in who we are and what we are here in Southwest. And you know, we wouldn't have community without the word unity, which is honestly how we all feel. Earlier, we have shared results from surveys and a petition with over 500 plus signatures of many of our community members, some who were not able to make it here, some who were not even represented during the sharing of stories earlier today. But this is just to really echo on the fact that we wouldn't be able to do this without our community. And so of course, because this is really going to affect our students as well, I'm going to make sure that we open up the floor for our 6th grade student, Malachi, to come and share a letter that he has written about how this will affect him.
Hi, good evening. I'm Malachi McLaughlin, a formal Amidon-Bowen Tiger. I go to Jefferson Middle School Academy, and I'm an actor who has been in 3 plays, and I'm currently in one right now. Some of my hobbies are acting, singing, dancing, basically everything that has to do with show business. I also volunteer with dogs. Yeah, Lucky Dog Rescue Center. Thanks to Amidon's help, I am in advanced math, and I just feel like without Amidon, I would not have gotten there. And a story that I have is that on the week of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, my friends and I went to a movie, and on our way back, I was just being my childish self, and hard to pronounce, and I took a newspaper from the little newspaper thingies that replace the newsies, whatever they're called, and what did I see on the front page? I saw a title saying, "Parents Fight to Keep Amidon-Bowen in Southwest." I start reading it, and it says, Amidon-Bowen, Southwest DC's only elementary school, something, I don't remember. Anyway, later in the story, it said that they were relocating them 3.5 miles away. Buses will be provided. What about the people that woke up late knowing that their school would be close by? Me personally think that was my family because we're not very good at waking up early, and knowing that Amidon is really close by just really helps us. There are also people who have a baby in Southwest and are like, oh, it's a good thing Amidon is nearby. They will be attending school in 3 years, but in 2 years, it'll be demolished and re-renovated, so they won't have a chance. Also, I'm not saying I hate the idea of renovating the school, but instead of moving them 3.5 miles away, near Jeff, there is a abandoned building, and I think they could actually renovate that into a temporary Amidon-Bowen in the time until Amidon-Bowen gets renovated. And thank you.
Thank you, Malachi.
Also, we have letters from 2 of our Amidon-Bowen students for Charles Allen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Malachi, and to all of our students who have written to Councilmember Allen. And so to make sure, we want to make sure that we open up this space for Councilmember Allen, followed up by, Deputy Chancellor Patrick Ashley.
Thanks, everybody, and good evening. Thanks, everybody, for putting this together. To Pastor Brian and Westminster, we were here on Saturday celebrating the kickoff of Black History Month. We are in this space all the time as a community, celebrating, grieving, meeting, working. So thank you again for making Westminster just a hub for Southwest. And let's show Brian some appreciation for opening up. Also, of course, a big thanks to the Amidon-Bowen family and community for putting this together. My history with Amidon-Bowen has been a long one. When we merged the schools, I was on that walk as we went from Bowen to Amidon to help bring communities together, and I am going to be there with you every step of the way, hear what you want to fight for, to be that voice, and to keep working until we get that done. I'm also very happy. On a personal note, I'm really excited that you guys have Principal Jackson here. I was introduced earlier as not just your council member, but a DCPS parent. My two DCPS children are right over here. Principal Jackson was actually my son's first principal back at Meyer Elementary, so you have a phenomenal leader at your school. I'm incredibly proud of what he does within the school, working with our educators and our leaders there, and I think Amidon-Bowen is lucky to have such a phenomenal leader. And Principal Jackson, we're excited for your role here. I know that we want to get to the Q&A part, so I'm going to try to just be very brief here. I want to echo and lift up what a couple of things that I heard from a lot of our parents, as well as Malachi. Phenomenal job, by the way. Nicole described it perfectly, saying this is a small town in a big city. It absolutely is. I also want to lift up what Andrea and Sarah both mentioned, which is this conversation's not new. We were having these conversations 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So if there is a voice out there saying, hey, you're kind of late to the process, no. We have been having these conversations for quite some time. I have said before, and I will say again tonight, I do not believe Amidon-Bowen should swing to Meyer. I think it is too far. I think it is too far. I think that whenever we do, I am not new, I've been at this long enough to know, any school modernization does present challenges. It is hard, we have to solve for any kind of problem. And yes, there are inconveniences go with it. Inconvenience is like J.O. Wilson right now, which is getting modernized, which is swinging from J.O. Wilson over to, essentially over to Spingarn, which is about a 10 to 15 minute bus ride. That's inconvenient. This is, on a best case scenario, at least 30 minutes on a bus, and really when we talk about rush hour traffic, it is going to be much more than that. That is not an inconvenience. That to me is a bridge too far, and we've got to find a different way to get this done. One of my frustrations as we have gone through this is that as we have tried to offer alternatives for different sites, the response that we typically get back from DCPS has just been no. I can hear a no, but I would really like to understand the why. And that's what I've never really been able to get is if one site doesn't work, help me understand why. Help me understand why that site doesn't work, because that will help us figure out a different site. The other part that has really frustrated me is that every time I've had this conversation with the Chancellor about this move and that I do not want to see it go to Meyer, the response I get back from the Chancellor is, Council member, fantastic, bring me a different site that you'd like to go to. I keep throwing out ideas, and you do as well, and we keep getting a no. I have yet to see DCPS come back with an alternative to us. And that to me is one of the things I really want to ask DCPS to do, is say, give us some alternatives. Now, I do believe, and I want to credit, of course, the school community here, the collective action and collective voice. I do believe I've had, and the Deputy Chancellor will be up here in just a moment, I have had multiple conversations with Deputy Chancellor. I do believe, as Principal Jackson said, they are not just in listening mode, but I think they really are looking at what could alternatives look like. Now, I think the timing of this conversation is really important. At the council, in a couple of months, we'll be moving into our budget season. What that means is that the mayor, usually around the end of March, 1st to April, proposes a new budget. If there is going to be a different solution, it will come through the budget process. And while I know DCPS may not be able to stand here tonight, for example, and lay out a specific alternative, conversations like this tonight do help inform the conversation that the Deputy Chancellor, for example, brings back to his boss, brings back to the mayor, and in very quick order, in early April, we could be seeing a proposal come forward in the budget that starts to lead us towards a different outcome and what I hope would be a better outcome. If this community tells me, if you tell me that you want to move back the modernization to find a different solution, if that's what you ask me to do, I will fight for that in the budget. I want to caution, if we do that, I do not want to delay something only to find ourselves back at Meyer just 2 years later. So if we want to make a move, and if the collective ask is to say, we're okay with a delay, but we want to see, my recommendation would be, what I would want to see is, what is that alternative so that you know what you're signing up for? Because a delay that just puts you right back in the same spot, I don't think is what anybody wants. But I'm going to be listening to you and hear what that is. I believe my job here is to help work with you and find those solutions. I know our State Board of Education member, Brandon Best, is here as well. He and I partner really well on all of our education issues, so I know that while the decision may come through the council, I think I've got an ally and a friend at the State Board of Education to keep working on those common ground, those common solutions as well. So I know we're going to move to Q&A, but I got to hand the mic back off to a Deputy Chancellor, so why don't I stop here, and then I'll be right back up in another moment so that we can get into the Q&A. Does that sound good? All right. So I'm just going to, I guess, do the introduction. So Patrick Ashley, who is our Deputy Chancellor, who also I've known for a number of years because he was a leader within the Department of Health as well, and is somebody I've seen to be an effective leader at the council, at the DC government, and is somebody who tries to solve problems. And so I know that I'm never going to 100% like the answer. I do trust that he's listening and that he is working on solutions, and I know that he's going to be entering in that spirit tonight to hear you, take that back, and continue to work towards solutions. Patrick.
Good evening. So, as Councilmember Allen mentioned, my name is Patrick Ashley. I'm one of 2 deputy chancellors for DCPS, and my portfolio specifically covers all finance and operations, which includes our swing space planning, our facilities, all of the things that help support schools, and that's why I'm here tonight to talk about this. I also want to thank my team who's here. You'll hear from them in a little bit. But more importantly, I want to thank you all for being here. As Councilmember Allen said, I very much value feedback. It's something that's important to me to be able to listen to the community. And as Councilmember Allen said, we can't always get to yes, but it is important that we're here and we're listening. And so I want to thank all of you for being here. I've engaged with many of you already on some meetings, and I'm relatively new to the process as well. I might be newer than Principal Jackson as well in this role as well, but I'm here to listen and understand. I'm also not here tonight to say no. You won't hear that from us tonight. We want to hear options. We've got a list of options that have been sent to us that we're exploring. And I ask my team always when we get options to engage in good faith, and they engage in good faith. And there's many circumstances that we're happy to provide justification of why this may or may not work, or what we want to be able to look for in a swing space. But ultimately, we also want to make sure that we're building functioning schools. And so we don't want to put folks in swing spaces that don't function as proper schools. And so that's really important that we make sure that when we're planning out swing spaces that we're very intentional about the requirements that we set. I also just want to acknowledge that, a Ward 6 resident, but not in Southwest, but I've learned so much about the Southwest community from my time at DC Health. I've been in DC since 2010. I've been with DC government since 2019. And in 2019, I learned so much throughout the pandemic about the community that is Southwest. And some of the advocacy that Councilmember Allen and I worked on together to make sure that this community was represented. And so I'm really heartened to hear about the sense of community that's here and its feedback that we want to make sure that we're incorporating into our swing space planning. As Councilmember Allen mentioned, the biggest thing here is budget, right, and the budget timing. As he mentioned, the mayor will put out a budget around April, beginning of April, and that's in the circumstances in which that any of these options that we're talking about require money, which require us to move money around, and that's the mayor's prerogative. And so I can't stand up here tonight and say, yes, we're going to do this, or no, we're not going to do that. But your feedback tonight is super important to us. The feedback that we've heard from you all is super important as well as we're considering what that looks like. So I just want to say thank you again for being here. We'll also follow up with some written communication. We're working on the options I think the ANC presented to us so that we're able to talk about why it is that one site works or doesn't work. We did that with another community recently as well, where we sat down and talked about our decision-making process as well. It is important to understand that sometimes the answer is no for some of these sites for good reasons. They're either owned by private developers, there's not enough space, but we'll help to make sure folks understand what that is, and hopefully we can find a solution that works to be able to support the community. And again, I just want to close before we get to question and answer. It's like, we want to hear your feedback. My team wants to hear your feedback. And so please continue to send us your feedback. Please continue to send us your ideas as well. And so in one of the other cases, like we did find a swing space for some other schools at the 11th hour. Our challenge is that Ward 6 doesn't have swing spaces, right? And that's something that we need to work on. We need to find the property. Councilmember Allen and I joked earlier that he's done such a great job about developing Ward 6 that there is no vacant property for us to acquire. But we would love to be able to find something that helps us solve the need for Amidon and some of our other school communities. So we come here tonight with the spirit of listening and happy to take your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has shared and who has listened. And so, of course, in good faith, we want to make sure that we open up the floor for question and answers. We will have mic runners who will be able to come up to you, and at least so that we can make sure that we magnify your voices and can hear clearly all of your questions and concerns. Now, of course, being mindful that this is a very emotional topic. The future of our children in our community is of highest priority, and so we just want to make sure that as we are voicing our concerns and our questions, that we're doing so in a respectful tone, for we do have our guests here and taking the time to come and listen to us. So thank you very much. Any questions? Yes. I did. I do apologize. And I do also want to say once again, we have the Deputy Chancellor's team up here so that they will also be able to answer any questions.
Can I go? Okay. So my name is Erica Walker. As you can see, I'm wearing sunglasses, right? So I'm not sure if people in here can see me because I can't see them anymore. So I've heard a lot today, and I really don't have a question, but I want to give you a different perspective, right? Out of all the things that you've heard in here today, we haven't heard one person say, this is my only concern. I'm one person that can deal with a lot. So I can talk to you about busing your child with a disability on an Aussie bus. Let's talk about the Aussie bus may not have GPS, so you can't locate your child when your child needs it. Let's talk about when your child have a seizure and they have the syringe that have to be placed in them rectally, or if your child have a severe asthma attack and the people don't know how to administer their inhaler and they say, hey, we can't do this because we're not trained, we got to call the ambulance. But if you ever have a child, my child's, the one that had the seizures also had sickle cell disease who had 2 strokes. And she was in DCPS at the time. So as a parent, if you get a call, something's happening with your child, but we don't have no one to administer and we gotta wait for the EMTs to get here, that's a whole different panic, right? If you all remember Relisha Rudd, I'm bringing her up. Relisha Rudd, when she went missing, I was at the Jobs Have Priority Family Shelter, 2603 Nella Road. And my daughter had to get on the Aussie bus then. After Relisha Rudd went missing, they did clear the shelters, just like we were animals. Where did I go? I went to 865 Chesapeake Street, Ward 8, right? We was happy to be out the shelter, but now we got to deal with a whole bunch of other issues. One afternoon, there was a gentleman that was killed 3 o'clock when I was bringing my son home from daycare, broad daylight, gunshots. Where am I going to go? I can't do this anymore. So I'm going to be very honest because I'm also the former equity lead here. So if people know me, they know what I'm about to say will not be in bad taste, but I want you to understand my point. I lived in Ward 8. I didn't see white folks. So I said, I need to move where the white people are. Point blank and simple, because there was a certain level of safety that I found in those neighborhoods. Georgetown didn't give it to me. Georgetown wouldn't even accept me. But Southwest accepted me. So I moved to 1444 4th Street in the Channel Square townhomes, right? During COVID, I remember Councilmember Allen's assistant, I believe it was Eric, who came to my house. He brought me a mask because I was so petrified of what COVID could do when it came to my daughter with sickle cell disease. But we had to leave Southwest because we was exposed to asbestos. So I moved to Ward 1. Funny, my address was 2712 Sherman Avenue. If you know anything about that location, my house was approximately a block and a half from Meyer Elementary. I've stayed committed to Amidon because I love the community that was built here. We went from Kindred to VIBE, which was Visions of Integration, Building Equity. Right? Once COVID was over, my son was, in the 4th grade, so I was committed to coming back here. So I made that trek from 2712 Sherman Avenue to 401 I Street every day. I don't drive. Well, I have a license, but I couldn't drive. Didn't have a car. So we had to get on the 63 bus to either the Green Line. It can take 30, 35 minutes, give or take, as long as there's no single tracking, like the other parent talked about, no stations closing, no shuttles. Or we had to get on the 63, 64 to the P6 at 11th and E. And if the P6 came on time, great, we'll make it to school in 10 minutes. But if we didn't, we had to wait an additional 20, 25 minutes because that P6 runs from Rhode Island Avenue to Anacostia. So if it's backed up somewhere, we're going to wait. There were plenty of times my son, but now also my grandchildren who go to Amidon, were late getting to school. But I was committed to the community, right? I have asthmatics. My grandson and my son are asthmatics. So having them leave from just thinking of it, when they left from Sherman Avenue to come to Northwest, to Southwest, and I had to rush to get to Southwest from Northwest if they had an asthma attack, then rush to get back to Northwest to take them to 111 Michigan Avenue so they can get cared for at Children's Hospital, that was something. But now we're in a whole new administration. Food prices have gone up. I am proud to say I have a food stamp card. Right now, I'm blind. I know Southwest like the back of my hand. I can tell you how to walk places. But DC in general is not built for for people who suddenly lose their vision. I had sight last year. I don't have sight right now. So if I had to try and figure out, the good thing is, right, a week after my surgery, I moved back to Ward 6. So I now live at the Navy Yard. So I'm very convenient back to Amidon, where if I had to pick up my grandkids, all fine, cool, and well, I'm just one train stop away or one bus ride away like I did tonight from the P6 right here to 4th Street. But now, when you all make these decisions, you got to think of parents like me who don't have a car, who's not a federal employee, who don't make all the money in the world, but we want our children to go to a school that have not just a great community. I don't know if she's here. One of my best friends, who is my sister, is Ava Millstone. When I went to adopt my son, Ava was with me during that process. And if you read the Washington Post, my son made history. Dylan's adoption set the standard for DC Superior Courts to have WebEx. Nothing happened before Dylan's adoption. But April 7th, 2020 was when we made history. But we also had a community that fought with us to make sure that adoption happened. We had over 100 people on that call from this community. When I lost my vision, when I was having surgery, it was people from this community who still come and call me, hey, Erica, what can we do to support you? In Ward 1, I can tell you I had 2 people who I knew. That's it. It was no sense of community. It was no sense of safety. My son couldn't go outside and play with people because we didn't know anybody. Someone said Southwest felt like a small little country town where everyone knows everyone. That's because we do. Our kids love each other. Even the ones who have graduated, they still connect to each other. Families, we connect. It takes a village. And if our village is broken, where is that going to leave us? Who is that going to leave us to come to? So I really want you all to really think about the impact that your decisions will make. And then when you all think about fare evasion, if you have parents that's already fighting to get from Ward 8 to Ward 6 and they got to catch the metro, they budget. Because again, if you have an EBT card, if you get TANF, you only get a certain amount every month. Just because your kid goes to a school that's farther away and it costs more, you don't get more money for that. Food prices is going up. You don't get more money for that, so they have to budget. And if they have to go further, that's more money, even with Metro Lift. So you may have more people that's doing fare evasions, unless you're going to give parents who don't have a car the ability, hey, here's a smart trip for you. Here's a gift card loaded for Uber for emergencies. If DCPS can't do that, but yet you're about to spend millions on Capital One, whatever what is it? Nope, not RFK is a good one too, but the Verizon Center, whatever that's called, right? If you're about to spend millions on that, you spend millions on the developers that's coming. I need you to spend millions on the families that's being impacted by the situation and the decisions that you make.
Well, that's a hard one to follow. Hi, everybody. My name is Eugenia Norday. I went to Amidon when Paulette Hamlet was principal, and went to Jefferson when Vera White was principal. I live on the other side of town, Ward 7. I used to work at the DC Council, and now I work at DDOT. So this was a great fit as to why I chose Amidon for my son. So I just have a couple of quick solutions. Maybe one, the lottery algorithm could work if the last resort end all be all is no. Also, what if grades were split up throughout the community? If that was a solution, I know that's not the most ideal because we are a close-knit community and there are different variables that go into that. But they do have rec centers, Van Ness and Brent, Brent, they had a modular campus. So why does Brent why did that work for Brent and it can't work for Amidon, given we have that big field at Jefferson and this big field at Amidon? Thanks. Oh, she wants to answer. I'm sorry, that wasn't a rhetorical. I think I think everybody would like to know maybe why that worked for Brent but can't work for us, because Brent doesn't even have a field. Their modular campus was, I think, on the playground for a couple of years.
I can answer that real fast. I'm actually let DCPS answer that. So that's the modular that you're seeing at Brent is actually not their modernization. That's because they ran out of space. So that's a classroom that they have. Their swing space is not to a modular campus, and it will not be on site. I'm actually working with Brent a lot right now on their bus plan and their modernization plan as well, but perhaps DCPS can add some more on that.
Yeah, and Brent is going to Myers as well. Yep. And appreciate the idea. And as I said, I'm not up here to say yes or no to anything tonight. My team's taking some notes as well, and so we'll take a look at your suggestion. So thank you.
Good evening, all. I'm very loud, so I apologize if it's too loud. My name is Letitia Nero. I am known as Miss Nero at Jefferson Middle School Academy. I am a proud Jefferson teacher, proud Jefferson staff member. I've actually taught in Fairfax County for 5 years before I came to DC Public Schools, and I have been at Jefferson for 11 years, and that's end goal for me. I'm not leaving. So I've seen a lot of our current Trojans in the audience. I've seen a lot of families of former Trojans. Jefferson is it. I know that some are new to this process. I've been there for 11 years, and one thing I will say is that we have worked incredibly hard to make sure that we value our feeder families and give them everything that they need. And Amidon has been one of the feeder schools that has consistently sent their children to Jefferson, just like the chancellor is asking. He wants to see the feeder pattern, right? There are signs all over the city to make sure that that happens. Our families in this room want to go to Amidon, and that helps us to get them to Jefferson, right? So it's very disheartening for me. I just got brought into this conversation by Ms. Wolf. Thank you so much. It's very disheartening to me to hear that we are actually considering sending our pre-K through 5th grade students miles away from their home just to go to school. That's unacceptable. And for me, I was at Jefferson when we underwent modernization. We had trailers. We had modular classrooms built for our students, our middle school students, so they could stay in Southwest and to ensure that they were in a safe environment where their families knew where they were familiar, where they were comfortable, where they could still go pick up their siblings from Amidon and not have to worry about that. This is unacceptable to me, and I just don't really see how we can stand there and justify sending our babies to another school when we know that this particular section of the city is a multi-million, billion-dollar section. There is no way that we can value and say the wharf is more important than the children who grew up and are raised in this area. So I'm just making it very clear, as the sole member of Jefferson who is proud to be standing here to represent our voice. Our children need to stay in Southwest. Amidon needs to stay in Southwest, and DCPS needs to find a way to make that work. And I'm happy to say that directly to the chancellor if he would like to hear from a teacher voice as well.
Can I just add one quick thing to that? Because I really appreciate making sure that we have our educators' voice as well. I mean, obviously, any move or transition is difficult for the families, but it is also difficult for our teachers and our educators because they have to move as well. I'm going to do one quick shameless plug for a piece of legislation that's at the council right now related to this. So recognizing the impact we often see when there is a modernization, that you'll see enrollment actually dip for a short period of time, and then almost every single time in a modernization when the school comes back, enrollment rockets up, right? But our budgeting is based off of enrollment projections. And so I've introduced legislation, what we're calling just kind of hold harmless during a modernization, because if we see an enrollment dip, and then by the formula, a school is forced to lose an educator or a teacher, that is a broken relationship. That is an educator that we lose, that is a leader in your school, that knows your students, knows your family. And on paper, you may say, well, a year later, when enrollment goes back up, you can pick that position back up. You might pick up the FTE on paper. You've lost the person, the actual educator in the classroom. So I want to make sure we get that bill over the finish line, too. So thank you.
My question is, we have 3 CES classes, Ms. Brown, at Amidon-Bowen. I don't know, I'm sure you guys know what those classes are. When my daughter first came to Amidon, Milani could not talk. She had taught herself sign language. And Ms. Brown worked with her, you know, alone, and she's very intelligent, very smart. What do you tell parents of those children? Because I know when my child came to this school in a regular classroom, I was told she had to move. Amidon was the only school that had room for her in the CES class. What do you tell these parents who have children who are getting services at this school and who have been at this school for years getting services with a tremendous staff, you know, the special education staff? Everyone in this school is awesome. Like he said, the teachers lose in this move too, as well as our children. This is their home. What do you tell parents who have children in classes and you're moving them to a swing school and you may lose those teachers for those type of classes? What do you tell them?
So good evening, everyone. And I'm sorry my voice started sounding like this like 11 o'clock earlier today. But I'm Sharona Robinson. I'm the Manager of Community Affairs and Engagement at DCPS in the Office of External Affairs. So the LSAT work, the budget work, the Community Action Team, which is like the MOKers for DCPS, that's my team. So happy to be here. And I'm also happy to be back at home. And the reason why I can say back at home is because I'm a former Jefferson alum, and 3 of my 4 children were as well. And hi, Ms. Nero. So I will just say this. As a daughter of a recently retired longtime special educator at DCPS, yes, this is hard. I think we tell parents, you know, we just work with parents. I'm listening to a lot of what is being said tonight, like the mom who left. We haven't heard, for example, kind of splitting the school up. Like, we're listening to all options. But when we do make these decisions, and yes, as Deputy Chancellor Ashley said, you know, we're not saying no tonight. We are listening, but it is important for us to understand and recognize that as we are making decisions, this is not just an Amidon-Bowen decision. Like, we have to think about other schools in the queue. And I know we're here with Amidon-Bowen, but we are thinking about this from an equitable standpoint to ensure that we are providing opportunities for our students that make sense for the school community. I definitely hear you, Ms. Smith. And I think our kids went to Jefferson together, actually, because you look very familiar. But nonetheless, like I said, I know this is difficult. I've actually experienced modernization myself. I was on a school improvement team, helped design the building and everything, helped to move into the building. So I definitely understand your feelings and what you're thinking about right now, but just know we are listening. I know that's not the answer that you're wanting right now, but I don't think we're gonna have like the answer tonight. So I just wanna just preface that. But we do think about all of our students, our self-contained programs, whether you live in the community, out of the community. And actually, like I said, my kids and I went to Jefferson. We chose to come, so we were traveling from east of the river to come to Southwest.
So I've never been to any of these meetings before, but I live in Northwest, I work in Northeast, and I work with students. I'm not a teacher, but I'm an aide. And I work with students that have special needs. All of them do. And to see that schools are doing this, just no one needs to be doing this. The kids have a home, they need a home. And to move it like this for 2 years they're a family. That's, yeah, like they just.
Hello, everyone. I have two sons. One's in pre-K 3, one is in pre-K 4 at Amidon-Bowen. I grew up in Loudoun County, and for me, I walked to school every day when I was in preschool and, well, elementary school, right? I had that privilege of being able to put my backpack on, take the shortcut through the townhouses, and it felt like I was free, right? I never took a bus until I went to middle school. My wife and I, we've recently purchased a townhome to stay here, expand, and kind of lay our roots for the foreseeable future here in this community. And a lot of it is because I grew up in Loudoun County. I thought the same thing Nicole did, right? I could go to Herndon if I wanted to, and, you know, get outside the city and get that same kind of experience that I get when I was growing up and give that to my kids. But my kids have friends. My kids have established a friendship and are establishing friendships even with Nicole's son as well. But I think the emotion side of that is what's driving a lot of what our responses are. My question to you is, what has been discussed? What has been proposed as the solution to this? And have you thought about working with other businesses, Audi Field, the Nats? There's a lot of free space that's up in that area. Is there any solution that's on the table that incorporates any of this? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Oni Gaston. I am the interim deputy chief of facilities, and previously, or my other title actually, is director of facilities planning and design, so directly related to modernization, planning, modernizations, additions, swing space, etc. I think that's a great question, and thank you, everyone, for sharing what you're talking about tonight. We have been looking for several years. And so I think what to kind of also think of is that we're talking about conversations that we've been talking about here for 18 months, as we said. But to get into the swing, to the CIP, to start conversations about modernizations, to get into the capital improvement plan, to get funding for, for modernization, part of the plan to modernize a building, you do need to have a swing space identified. And so we do have opportunities where we are evaluating and looking like year over year trying to find additional spaces. I think what we shared also is that there's not a lot of available spaces here. Deputy Chancellor Patrick Ashley just said earlier as well, you know, we have to also think about what's within our portfolio, what's available for government, what we can use with capital funding, and how we are able to allocate our funding that way. There are some limitations on like other properties, even with other agencies as well, trying to work in partnership that way. So there have been lots of other discussions, and that's something that we are looking forward to kind of roll out in our follow-up.
Yeah, thanks, Oni. And I think, you know, the other piece of this is, as I mentioned, there's not a lot of swing space. There's certain wards in our city that don't have swing space. And one of the things we have our DGS partners always looking out for is there opportunity to acquire new property. How is it that we can make the swing spaces be more than just for one location, but for multiple locations? We always balance that with making sure that we can put those same funds into modernizing more schools faster. So every dollar that we spend on swing spaces is schools that we can't modernize faster. And so we try to find that balance. And our friends over at DGS are always looking at where can we be able to add swing spaces. We're very happy that we were able to just add another swing space recently when we reacquired McCogney over in Ward 8 as well. And so, again, we're looking to make those investments in the portfolio so that we can support communities. Recognizing that doesn't help the conversation today, but that is always on our radar. That's always on our team sort of looking at the market to say what it is. The reality I think that we face, right, as in Ward 6 is we don't have a lot of space that's available right now. And so hopefully we can find something.
Hi, my name is Marshall. I am a 15-year resident in Ward 6. I've lived in Southwest for the last 10. I have a son who has been at Amidon-Bowen for the last 4 years. He started in pre-K 3 there. My question is, as a community, we've been talking about a swing space for 18 months now. And I'd like to ask, what would it take to get to a yes and a solution for this budget cycle and to get an alternative evaluated in the next month or so so we can get to that budget cycle?
It's a great question. And so on the part of my answer is going to be a little bit just timing, but part of it's going to be like, how do we get to yes without actually having them tell us an actual proposal, right? So when the mayor puts forward her budget, which usually is, again, like into March, 1st to April, that then puts it into the council. And there's two parts of the budget. There's the operating, there's the capital. You heard the capital improvement plan. That's what lays out the modernization schedule. So the mayor's budget comes to us. We're able to make changes to that budget. We still have to make all the numbers, you know, equal out and pencil out at the end, but we're able to make changes to it. So it is always ideal to have whatever change you want to see in the introduced version of the budget, because that helps make sure the executive branch and the legislative branch are on the same page. I have had many conversations with the chancellor and with the deputy chancellor. I know that they are in conversations prepping for the mayor's introduction of a budget right now. And I know they're looking at alternatives to think through what would it look like. They don't have the answers to those numbers or those locations yet. I think the next 6 to 8 weeks is pretty pivotal to being able to get, if there's an alternative to be found on the executive side, to get that introduced. Should they stick with the plan? If they come back and introduce a budget that keeps Amidon-Bowen on the exact same modernization schedule and exactly at Meyer, I can go ahead and tell you what my ask back to the community is going to be. Do you want me to go in and make changes to the capital improvement plan to essentially back out the Amidon-Bowen modernization so that we have more time to find a better alternative? I will be upfront. My hesitation around that would be that if I move you back and I don't have a guarantee of a better solution, all we've done is delayed the modernization and we still end up with something that nobody finds acceptable, right? So if we're going to make that move, I want to have assurances from the executive branch that we have an actual alternative to find that. So that hopefully explains some of the logistics around how do we get to that. I think, again, the next 6 to 8 weeks is a pretty pivotal time. Patrick knows I'm not afraid to call him, to text him, to hound him. And so I will continue that for the next 8 weeks, pushing in that. I will be making the asks to the chancellor, to the city administrator, to the mayor, pushing for a different alternative, one that can work. And if it requires, if they come back to me and say, Councilmember, we're going to have to ask for several more $1 million to get this done, well, then I'll go fight to find the funding in the budget. I'd love it if they propose it, because then it's a lot easier to defend than to go find something else. But there are some very large, significant capital budget items that I've heard about in somewhere in Hill East that might be out there too. And so there's other capital dollars that might be able to be drawn down to make sure we get what we need. But I will fight to make sure that happens. But our timing, if that helps answer the question, is kind of the next few weeks.
The follow-up part of that is, Chancellor, can the DCPS commit to hearing the community outcry tonight, commit to working with us in those next 6 to 8 weeks to robustly evaluate alternatives to support this budget process?
If you give me the mic, I will. No, thank you. And I mean, it is something, as I mentioned before, that we have received a list, and I've asked the team, and the team always does engage in good faith in looking at those sites. I think there are some realities, right, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. When we propose private land, the city can't take that by force, right? And so when we think about those sort of options, they may be options, but it may delay the project, right? And so that's something that we would have to have conversations about, right? There has to be money to acquire that. The developers have to be willing to sell that land if we were to say some sort of parcel, right? And so there are a number of factors. It's not just about identifying a building or identifying a flat plot of land. It is also about the process and the logistics that get into it. And that's what ONI teams spends a lot of time making sure that when we say that we can deliver a modernization, we can deliver it on schedule. We almost never have a school that doesn't deliver on time, right? And that's very important to us because with the way that we do swing space, right, it is a bunch of schools that are swinging into multiple locations. And so any delay in delivery affects the entire community. And so it is a challenge of like putting all those pieces together to make sure that it works. And so I do want to caution when we talk about sites, it is one thing just to say this is a great piece of property, and we've had those conversations. Then we have to talk to our realty partners about like, what is that land worth? Are they willing to sell it to us? How long are they willing to lease it to us? Can we actually put that? Does the soil support that? So those are all conversations that we have anytime that we get an option, and the team does do that in good faith.
Okay, thanks. My name's Tom. I'm a father of a child in Amidon. Live here. Question about the trailers. Can we just kind of put it to bed? What is the no on the trailers? What is driving no on trailers on Amidon property?
Thank you. So where we're talking about putting trailers, specifically the proposal is from us here, is to put trailers on the Amidon field. We know that we as DCPS and as Patrick kind of shared about private land, but also thinking about pressures of other agencies as well. And so how do we kind of work together as partners, as sister agencies, to not put other burdens or kind of like bad positions for different agencies. So that field, because it is DPR property, not necessarily something that we can dictate what happens. There's a lot of other components there that, you know, we just can't outright just say we're plopping trailers there.
So what have they said? What does DPR say about using that field?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for DPR's team without them being here. It is conversations that we've had. Yep. Yep. So yeah, so we can follow up with that in terms of the specifics there for all of those things.
Let me also I want to knock out one rumor that I've heard out there as well, just to make sure folks know, because I feel confident we can solve for this if we can find. Like, I don't believe that the DPR use of that field is actually a barrier. DCPS may have other barriers, but I don't think DPR is. And here's why I think that. The main uses that we have from a DPR side is we have some Capitol Hill Little League practices that happen on that field, and we have some soccer practices that happen on that field. We as a community are about to renovate the Jefferson field, and we are actually going to have a phenomenal baseball diamond and a better field and other resources there, where we don't actually have some of those same permitted uses on the Jefferson field. I've already talked to the Capitol Hill Little League and said if that ends up being a viable scenario, can we just move your practice from the Amidon field over to Jefferson? And Capitol Little League's fine with that. They think that would work out just fine. So I don't believe that DPR is going to be a barrier from their permitting side of their uses. DCPS might come back and say, here's why we don't I don't want to speak for them. They may come back and give us other reasons why they think that can't work, but I feel confident we could navigate the DPR concerns around that.
All right, I think I'm going to be the last speaker or question of the night. I know you'll have a hard stop, but I just want to push back on the idea that there's not spaces in Ward 6. In Southwest alone, we have the Amidon field, we've got the Greenleaf field, we've got the Randall Park Recreation Center. We have so much field space if we could get DPR on board to work with us, one. And I like to echo what Andrea said, which was DPR was invited to be here tonight and refused. So, Councilmember Allen, please help us bring DPR into this conversation so that we can break through that barrier. And two, in these next crucial 6 to 8 weeks, Deputy Chancellor Ashley, when you're evaluating these other options, have Amidon families at the table. Because I can tell you, if the 80,000 square feet of Amidon isn't big enough for a staff parking lot, the Amidon community can find a place for our staff to park. You know, if there's concern about where special ed buses would drop off on other ones, the Amidon community, the Southwest community can figure that out. So we want to be a partner in the solution here if you will let us be that partner. Thank you.
I'm gonna pose a question to Patrick to make sure he can help clarify something, because when we talk about space, what I hear him saying is actual physical school building space, not a field. And what I mean by that is, what I think they would prefer to do is, rather than building a modular campus anywhere, this is citywide, they would always prefer to have an actual school building. In other parts of our city, we actually have some vacant school buildings that they've been able to convert. In Ward 6, we are a very strong public school system ward. All of our schools, which is a great thing, we have very active school communities in every one of them. I don't have any empty school buildings. I think that's what I hear him say. I want to make sure he can clarify that, because I agree with you. Obviously, we do have space. We have fields.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always want kids to go to school in school buildings. And again, we want well-functioning schools. And so when we make investments in swing spaces, whether that's a modular campus or a fully built school, we want to make sure that it's a school experience so that kids learn appropriately.
Thank you, everyone, for all of your questions. Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Thank you, Deputy Chancellor, and to your team. I'm really glad that everyone was able to join us this evening so that we could have this fruitful discussion. I know that there are more questions and that there is more to talk about. And so you will be, of course, receiving communications from us. And so we look forward to collaborating with you as we continue to think of ways that we can have a solution that works best for our community. Thank you. I do want to say that for the rest of the team, there is an announcement.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. I have one quick announcement. I'm Ava. I'm a parent at Amidon and Jefferson. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming out and sharing your voice and your civic participation tonight. We have a couple of great opportunities to make a difference at Amidon right now. We're starting a food distribution program. On Mondays, the second and fourth Mondays, we're going to have bagels. And then the second Thursday of every month, we're going to have produce. And Principal Jackson and team is working with us. So we need 3 volunteers who are willing to give 1.5 hours of their time, 1 time a month. So talk to me if you're interested in that. And I also wanted to highlight Jefferson Middle School Academy's Changemakers Expo, which is coming up on March 28th at 1:30 to 3 o'clock. It's basically a career fair, and they're looking for volunteers from the community to share their experience and their wisdom with their young people. So I'll post that on the Southwest DC Families chat for people to sign up. And there's also a SWANA Black History Month meeting at the end of the month. I would encourage our parent community to merge with some of our elders in the community, because they're doing really great work and having these important discussions there too. So, and that's always the best one of the year, because there's really good performances. That's it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.